Are you ready to face something that has no name but leaves scars? It's time to discover what lies beyond the light. Only if you are ready to face the deepest horror should you step inside. We're opening doors to a world where every rustle hides a dreadful secret, and every step might be your last. What evil lurks behind these walls? What dark forces awaken in the night's silence? What happens when your deepest fears begin to haunt your consciousness? Leave all hope and comfort behind. Turn on the light if you dare, and be ready to discover what hides in the darkest corners of your fear.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the sky, Blair stepped off the shuttle bus and onto the polished marble floors of the resort's grand entrance. The air was thick with the scent of exotic flowers, and the sound of gentle waves lapping against the shore created a soothing backdrop. Towering palm trees swayed languidly in the warm breeze, their leaves rustling in harmony with the distant melody of a steel drum band. This was the paradise promised in the brochures and travel blogs, a luxurious escape from the mundane. Blair surveyed the lush surroundings, taking in the opulent architecture that blended seamlessly with nature. The resort boasted infinity pools that seemed to flow into the ocean, surrounded by cabanas draped in silk and scattered with plush cushions. Guests lounged under the sun, sipping colorful cocktails adorned with tiny umbrellas. Everything felt perfect as Blair made their way toward the reception desk, where a friendly staff member greeted them with a wide smile. However, beneath the surface of this idyllic setting, an unsettling atmosphere began to creep in. The staff's smiles seemed a fraction too wide, their laughter a beat too forced. As Blair checked in, they noticed a couple of employees exchanging furtive glances, their expressions shifting from jovial to serious in an instant. The air was electric, charged with an inexplicable tension that made Blair's skin prickle. As Blair settled into their luxurious suite, adorned with plush furnishings and breathtaking views, the initial thrill of paradise began to fade. The room was equipped with every amenity imaginable, yet an eerie silence enveloped it. Outside, the once pleasant sounds of laughter faded into the background, replaced by an unsettling rustling that emanated from the nearby foliage. It was as if the vibrant life of the resort had been swallowed by an unseen force. Even as Blair explored the resort grounds, a nagging discomfort lingered. The sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows that danced across the paths. Guests moved about with an almost mechanical precision, and the vibrant colors of the sunset seemed to dull as the darkness encroached. Blair caught whispers of strange occurrences, tales of guests who had vanished or experienced inexplicable events. But they brushed them aside, convincing themselves it was just the thrill of adventure. Yet deep down, a sense of foreboding took root, like a seed planted in fertile soil, threatening to bloom into something sinister. As the days passed, the resort that once sparkled with the promise of paradise began to reveal its darker underbelly. Blair noticed the first signs of trouble one evening while lounging by the pool, sipping a cocktail that felt increasingly bitter on the tongue. Laughter erupted from a nearby group, but it was a laughter tinged with something unsettling. A couple of guests were missing from their sun loungers, their towels still neatly folded, as if they had simply evaporated into thin air. Whispers of a curse floated through the air, carried by the breeze like a sinister melody. Blair overheard snippets of conversations among the remaining guests, each recounting their own bizarre experiences. One woman spoke of a shadow creeping along her balcony, while a man claimed he had heard his name called from the darkened woods that bordered the resort. Each story was more chilling than the last, weaving a tapestry of paranoia that hung thick in the air. In the coming days, Blair's skepticism began to erode. The atmosphere shifted, the once vibrant colors of the resort dulled. The sounds of nature morphed into something alien, a cacophony of rustling leaves and distant whispers that seemed to call out from the depths of the jungle. Even the staff's smiles faltered. They were no longer welcoming, but appeared strained, their eyes reflecting a fear that Blair was beginning to share. In the dead of night, Blair awoke to the unsettling sensation of being watched. Shadows danced across the walls, and the whisper of the wind took on a sinister tone, as if warning them of an encroaching darkness. Scrutinizing the room, they could almost feel the weight of the unseen forces pressing in, choking the air and twisting their thoughts. Each creak of the floorboards became amplified, a reminder that they were not alone in this luxurious prison. As Blair wandered the resort during the day, the eerie feeling persisted. Guests became increasingly withdrawn, their faces etched with fatigue and anxiety. Eye contact was fleeting, and conversations fell to hushed murmurs. The once bustling dining areas were now punctuated by moments of heavy silence, with vacant seats where friends had once gathered. Blair felt the creeping tendrils of dread intertwining with their thoughts, a spiraling descent into paranoia that was hard to shake off. The lush surroundings, once a source of comfort, now felt like a gilded cage. The palm trees towered like silent sentinels, their leaves whispering secrets that sent shivers down Blair's spine. The ocean, which had once beckoned with its azure beauty, now roared ominously, waves crashing against the shore as if trying to warn them away from the cursed resort. With each passing moment, the line between reality and nightmare blurred further, leaving Blair with the gnawing realization that the paradise they had sought was transforming into a waking nightmare. Determined to uncover the truth behind the resort's unsettling atmosphere, Blair embarked on an investigation into the land's dark past. Armed with a notepad and an insatiable curiosity, they wandered through the resort's lavish corridors, seeking any clues that might shed light on the ancient evil that seemed to lurk just beneath the surface. Their first encounter came unexpectedly while visiting a hidden corner of the resort, an old library filled with dusty tomes and artifacts. The elderly librarian, a reluctant woman with weary eyes, seemed hesitant to share any information. However, when Blair mentioned the strange occurrences and the whispers of a curse, the woman's demeanor shifted. She reluctantly revealed that the land had once been sacred, home to an ancient tribe that revered the spirits of nature. But as the resort was built, the spirits were angered, and their wrath awakened a malevolent force that had long lain dormant. As Blair listened intently, the librarian's voice trembled, hinting at a deeper connection between the land and the dark forces that had been unleashed. She spoke of rituals that had been disrupted and a warning that had been ignored. "The spirits do not forget," she cautioned, her eyes darting to the shadows that seemed to encroach upon the library. This revelation sent a chill down Blair's spine, igniting a fire of urgency within them. Continuing their quest for answers, Blair ventured outside the resort, seeking the wisdom of the local villagers. Many were reluctant to speak, their faces clouded with fear. It took several attempts and a few shared stories of their own unsettling experiences for one elder to finally open up. He recounted tales of guests who had ventured into the jungle, never to return, and how the land seemed to shift and change, as if it were alive and watching. "Respect the land, or it will consume you," he warned, his voice a gravelly whisper. As Blair pieced together the fragments of history, they began to realize that the resort was not merely a victim of circumstance, it was a catalyst for the awakening of the darkness. Each encounter with the staff and locals heightened the tension, as Blair faced not only their skepticism, but also the supernatural threats that lurked in the shadows. One night, while investigating the resort's old chapel, Blair felt a cold breeze sweep through the room, extinguishing the flickering candlelight. The walls seemed to close in, and whispers echoed in the darkness, urging them to leave. Blair's heart raced as the once dreamy vacation turned into a relentless nightmare. With every step deeper into the mystery, they could feel the ancient evil stirring a dark presence that thrived on fear and despair. The stakes were rising, and the shadows were closing in, leaving Blair with a haunting question. How could they escape the curse that had ensnared them in this remote paradise? As the sun set on the third day, a palpable tension enveloped the resort. The beautiful facade was beginning to crack, revealing the underlying horror that lay in wait. Guests who had once reveled in the stunning surroundings now moved with a sense of urgency, their laughter replaced by anxious whispers. The once pristine pools were now murky, and the vibrant colors of the resort's gardens appeared muted, as if drained of life. It became increasingly clear that the curse had fully manifested, and the once idyllic paradise was transforming into a hellish nightmare. Blair's investigation led them to observe terrifying transformations among the guests. A couple, previously the life of the party, now wandered the halls with vacant expressions, their skin pallid and their movements jerky, as if controlled by unseen strings. The staff too were not immune. The front desk clerk had developed an unsettling twitch, and her eyes glowed with a wild intensity. Blair felt their stomach churn at the sight, realizing that the ancient evil was feeding off the very essence of those trapped within the resort. Desperate to find answers, Blair delved deeper into the resort's history, uncovering a hidden chamber beneath the chapel filled with ancient relics and cryptic symbols. They discovered a journal from the first resort owner, detailing the sacrifices made to appease the spirits of the land, sacrifices that had been abandoned as greed took precedence. The realization hit Blair like a cold wave. The curse was not just an abstract concept, but a living force, growing stronger with every moment of fear and despair. But just as they began to piece together the puzzle, a major twist unfolded. While exploring the chamber, Blair stumbled upon a mirror, its surface rippling like water. When they gazed into it, they saw not their own reflection, but the faces of the missing guests, trapped in a limbo between worlds, their eyes wide with terror. The mirror revealed the horrifying truth. The ancient evil thrived on the souls of the resort's inhabitants, and it would not rest until it had claimed them all. Panic surged through Blair as they realized the stakes had escalated far beyond their initial fears. The darkness was not merely a force to be understood, but a predator, and they were its prey. With every heartbeat echoing in their ears, Blair resolved to confront the evil and free the trapped souls before it consumed everything they held dear. However, as they stepped further into the shadows, the weight of their own fear threatened to pull them under, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. The air was thick with tension as Blair stood at the threshold of the hidden chamber, a dimly lit space that exuded an ancient malevolence. The walls, adorned with faded symbols and cryptic carvings, seemed to pulse with an energy that threatened to suffocate them. A chill raced down Blair's spine, an instinctual warning that echoed in the back of their mind the confrontation was imminent. As they stepped deeper into the room, the mirror's surface shimmered, revealing fleeting images of the resort's guests, faces twisted in terror, their silent screams echoing in Blair's ears. The realization struck hard. The curse had a corporeal form, an entity that thrived on despair, and it was lurking just beyond the veil of reality. With courage ignited by desperation, Blair clenched their fists, prepared to confront this ancient evil. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. A deep, resonant voice reverberated through the chamber, chilling Blair to the bone. "You dare trespass upon my domain?" It boomed, the words dripping with malice. From the shadows emerged a figure, cloaked in darkness, its form shifting and writhing like smoke. Its eyes, glowing with an otherworldly light, bore into Blair, revealing a void that seemed to drain the very essence of hope. The entity pulsed with a sinister energy, a manifestation of every fear and nightmare that had plagued the resort. "Your presence here only strengthens my grip on this place," it hissed, the air thick with its malevolence. "You cannot hope to escape, they are mine, and soon you will be too." Blair's heart raced as they felt the weight of despair beginning to settle in, but they forced themselves to stand tall. "I won't let you take anyone else," they shouted, their voice steady despite the terror clawing at their insides. Drawing from an inner well of courage, Blair lunged forward, a makeshift weapon, a ceremonial dagger discovered earlier, clutched tightly in their hand. The entity recoiled, its form twisting in fury. "Foolish mortal, you think you can challenge the darkness?" It surged toward Blair, a wave of shadow and despair. The room warped around them, time stretching as the entity unleashed torrents of dark energy, forcing Blair to dodge and weave, adrenaline coursing through their veins. In this moment of chaos, Blair's mind raced. They remembered the librarian's words about the land's spirits. Perhaps the only way to confront the evil was to harness the very forces it sought to control. With every ounce of determination, Blair began to chant the ancient incantations they had deciphered, their voice rising above the cacophony of darkness. The words flowed from their lips, a desperate plea for the spirits to lend their strength. The entity shrieked, a sound that reverberated through the chamber, a chorus of anguish and fury. "You cannot summon them, they are long gone." But as Blair's voice grew louder, the air crackled with energy. The symbols on the walls began to glow, illuminating the room with a brilliant light. The shadows recoiled, the entity's form flickering as if caught in a tempest. "No! You will pay for this insolence!" It howled, its voice now laced with fear. With renewed vigor, Blair pressed on, the dagger raised high. They felt an invisible connection to the very land, an ancient bond that surged through their veins. The shadows writhed, and with a final incantation, Blair plunged the dagger into the ground. A shockwave rippled through the chamber, and the light exploded outward, engulfing the entity in a blinding brilliance. As the room quaked, the darkness screamed, a cacophony of voices desperate for freedom, yet simultaneously terrified of the approaching light. The images in the mirror twisted, revealing the trapped souls reaching out, their eyes pleading for release. Blair's heart ached, understanding that the sacrifice of fear was the key to breaking the curse. In that moment, they felt the weight of every lost soul, the burden of their despair intertwining with their own resolve. "I will set you free," Blair yelled, channeling their energy into the dagger. The light surged forth, a beacon piercing through the suffocating blackness, illuminating the chamber until it was filled with a radiant glow. The entity howled in fury, its form dissipating like mist under the sun. "You may have won this time, but I will return," it screeched, its presence unraveling, pulled into the light. In a final desperate act, it clawed at the air, but the radiance consumed it, banishing the evil back into the abyss from whence it came. As the last remnants of darkness faded, the souls trapped in the mirror poured forth, their faces transformed from anguish to relief. They swirled around Blair, a whirlwind of gratitude and freedom, lifting the weight of despair that had burdened the resort for so long. The chamber erupted in light, and with a final surge of energy, Blair collapsed to their knees, exhausted but victorious. The curse had been confronted, and in that pivotal moment, they understood that the true battle lay not just against the darkness, but also within the struggle to embrace hope in the face of overwhelming fear. The air was thick with tension in the aftermath of the confrontation. As the last echoes of the entity's anguished screams faded into the ether, a profound silence enveloped the chamber. Blair knelt on the cold stone floor, the remnants of the ancient evil dissipating into wisps of shadow. The radiant light that had surged forth now settled, illuminating the faces of the freed souls who hovered nearby, their expressions a blend of relief and gratitude. One by one, they reached out, their ethereal hands brushing against Blair's arms, imparting a warmth that chased away the lingering chill of fear. "Thank you," they whispered in unison, their voices like a gentle breeze, a harmonious melody that resonated deep within. In that moment, Blair felt a sense of closure wash over them, a weight lifted, as if a dark cloud had finally dispersed. As they rose to their feet, the chamber around them began to shimmer, the ancient symbols glowing softly before fading into the stone. The oppressive atmosphere that had once choked the life from the resort lifted, replaced by a serene stillness that felt almost sacred. Blair understood that the battle was not just theirs alone, it had been a collective struggle against the darkness that had plagued the land for so long. Emerging from the hidden chamber, Blair stepped into the light of the resort, now transformed. The once muted colors burst forth vibrantly, as if the very essence of life had been restored. Guests who had been lost in despair now moved about with renewed vigor, laughter and joy echoing through the halls. The staff, too, appeared rejuvenated, their smiles genuine as they embraced the return of their former selves. Yet, amid the celebration, a subtle undercurrent of unease lingered, a reminder of the fragility of their victory. While the curse had been lifted, Blair couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness was merely dormant, waiting for the opportune moment to re-emerge. They exchanged glances with other survivors, a silent understanding passing between them. They had faced a horror together, and the bond forged in that crucible of fear was unbreakable. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the resort, Blair took a moment to reflect. They stood at the edge of the beach, the gentle waves lapping at their feet, and watched as the last light of day surrendered to the night. The beauty of the scene was undeniable, yet it felt tinged with a bittersweet reminder of the darkness that had once threatened to consume them. When the time came to leave, Blair boarded the shuttle bus alongside the other survivors. The drive away from the resort was filled with a mix of emotions, relief, joy, and an undeniable sense of foreboding. As the familiar landscape of palm trees and ocean faded into the distance, Blair resolved to carry the lessons of their experience. They would share the story of the cursed resort, ensuring that the darkness would not be forgotten and that the spirits of the land would be honored. While they had escaped the clutches of evil, Blair knew that vigilance was essential. The line between paradise and nightmare could blur again, and it was up to those who remained to safeguard against the return of the ancient evil that once preyed upon their dreams. Months passed since Blair's harrowing escape from the cursed resort, yet the memories remained vivid, haunting every waking moment. Back in the comfort of their home, surrounded by the mundane rhythms of everyday life, they often found themselves staring out of the window, lost in thought. The vibrant sunsets, which once brought joy, now felt tinged with an ominous weight, as if the shadows were waiting just beyond the horizon. Despite the normalcy of their surroundings, Blair's heart raced at the slightest sound, a creaking floorboard or a whisper of wind. Friends and family noticed the change. They would catch Blair gazing into the distance, a flicker of fear clouding their eyes. At night, sleep eluded them, replaced by restless dreams filled with dark figures and echoing laughter. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and the once cherished memories of the resort transformed into a chilling reminder of what lurked beneath the surface. In an attempt to reclaim their life, Blair began documenting their experiences, pouring every detail onto the pages of a journal. Each stroke of the pen was an effort to exorcise the demons that clung to them, but the act only seemed to deepen the shadows in their mind. Friends urged them to let go, to focus on the present, but how could they forget the anguished faces of those lost, trapped in that sinister realm? One evening, as Blair sat in the dim light of their living room, a flicker of movement caught their eye. The shadows danced along the walls, twisting and shifting in ways that felt eerily familiar. Heart pounding, they approached the window, peering out into the darkness that enveloped the world beyond. The air felt charged, electric, as a sense of foreboding washed over them. Suddenly, a soft knock echoed through the silence, reverberating like a death knell. Blair's breath hitched, a chill creeping down their spine. They hesitated, recalling the librarian's warning. The spirits do not forget. Slowly, they opened the door, half expecting to see a familiar face, but instead, they were met with an empty corridor bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. Yet, as they turned to close the door, a whisper slipped through the air, chilling their bones. "You thought you could escape?" The voice was faint, almost a sigh, but unmistakably sinister, a reminder that the curse, though quiet, was never truly broken. Blair's heart raced as they felt the shadows around them thicken, creeping in like an unwelcome fog. The darkness was back, not as a distant memory, but as a living entity, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the moment to reclaim what it had lost.